Hi, my name is Mark Bauer. I'm excited to share with you the results I've had being on the Moses method, working with Total Being Fitness, and my overall experience. Uh, to start, I moved to Detroit back in 2021 and into the Detroit area. And I'd been in Austin, and I had actually just started working out with a trainer in the Austin area, probably a year before that. And after being in Detroit for a year and not really exercising like I should, I knew I needed to get back into it. And so was looking for really, and one thing I learned is I ought to get a DEXA scan and see where I am and see how much body fat and lean mass I had and that sort of information. I knew that that was important. I'd learned that in Austin, and so I wanted markers. But I assumed that I had the knowledge to do the program myself. I just wanted to go get the measurements because I'd learned how to lift weights and how to do dumbbell curls and whatever else I might need to do. So I was Googling in the Detroit market, hoping to find a DEXA scan near me, and I found Total Being Fitness, which sort of jumped out that a gym would have a DEXA scan, and then as I read it, they have a VO2 max, and they do the resting metabolic your metabolic rate testing, and so I was very intrigued with that, and I read their website, and even noticed they had an amazing advisory board, and one of the his medical director happened to be the doctor I was using there, my cardiologist in Detroit, who's a well-known longevity doctor in the field of cardiology. And so I was fascinated by that. So the idea was, well, I'm going to go get my testing there at Total Being Fitness, and I'll still do my, I know how to sort of lift weights, and that was fine. But it was brilliant. They have an amazing team there, and that's the first thing you notice when you go there. I'm probably one of the most the best aspects of being there in their facility. Everybody that I met that day, I met everybody. I met Sam, I met Elvis, I met Brian, I met Christopher, and all of them were involved in giving me my initial testing. But there was a depth of explaining the Moses method to me, which primarily came from Brian, I think, that day. And I really learned a lot and really learned that basically getting into an exercise routine was going to be there were different ways to do it, and then the Moses method was a specific strategy that was just that I was not likely to get the results I wanted if I just went out and started lifting weights, even if I might get the form right. And so they had lots of different strategies in it based on what they could read in the DEXA scan and your VO2 max and in your metabolic rate. So I decided to work with them that year, and that was in September of no, it was in June of 2022. And the results were pretty phenomenal in just one year. From 2022 to 2023, I lost 34 pounds. And that 34 pounds, 24 pounds of it was fat. So you're going to lose some muscle when you're losing that much weight, but I lost that being on the Moses method. And it worked. I got my results. My primary goal was to lose weight. I was close to 200 pounds. I was right at 200 pounds. I wanted to lose weight and build muscle and start toning down. So I got those results, losing those 34 pounds in one year. And my VO2 max, I went when you looked at the results on that. I my first test, I scored in what they called fair. And then 3 months later, I was in good. And 6 months later, I was in good. And then by 9 months and 12 months, I was hitting those borderline. And then I finally moved to the excellent range. So I was taking in more oxygen, and my resting metabolic rate, grew from about 2,000 calories to about 3,500 calories. So I was burning more calories just at rest, getting healthier. So those were phenomenal results. From there, I happened to move. I tend to move a lot. I moved back to Texas to be closer to where our grandkids are. And I didn't, follow I didn't really, I was traveling around to see a lot of clients and didn't exercise a lot. And so what's great is I decided to, uh, I do go to Detroit. I still, reasons to get up to Detroit. And I went up there and redid the testing again and found out where I was and decided to give the remote version using their app. They've got a brilliant app that they've put together, and they put a lot of time into it. And what's great is they took all my test results, put my plans in there, and put how I'm working out, and then I talk to Brian or somebody every few weeks, and he coaches me, and it gives me good advice and lets me know is it time to change stuff up or whatnot. But I'm again getting these same great types of results. So in the end, the results speak for themselves. What's most important, I think, and what I loved about Total Being Fitness is it just feels like family. Every time you go in there, everyone, you're going to get a hug, you're going to get a high five, you're going to ask, people are going to ask you about your family. It goes from everyone. And, Anthony, I feel like I became good friends with everybody there. Um, Anthony wants to know a lot about you, and and he asks about you and keeps up with you. And so I got to feel for them as a family, and also for the team as somebody that wanted you to win and get your results. And so saying that, it's a unique method. The Moses method is unique, and it's the first time I've had a trainers, sort of applied different methodologies for me to pursue my training based on the results from the DEXA scan and these other tests. And so, and versus the other trainers I'd used, just we went and did the same kind of training, but we'd look at the DEXA scan to see sort of the results we got. So it's a much more scientific, much more feels like a much more holistic and a much better approach. And then the number one reason then to be there, if you can be there live or through their remote version, is the team. As they eventually become family. So I'd be first to absolutely recommend them to anyone, wanting to get healthier or build muscle, lose fat, whatever it is you're wanting to do. These guys are the experts. Um, Thank you, and have a great day.